Hi and welcome. This is Jo Painter and I'm thrilled that you've chosen to join me today on this exciting webinar on how to double your impact at work. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to be sharing with you the 6 proven steps to double your impact at work, so you can be recognised, rewarded and respected in your career in just 3 months. Now, I really appreciate you being here today and investing your time in listening to me. So I've got a few tips that will make sure you get the most out of our time together. Why don't you turn off any mobile phones you've got, unless you're listening on one, of course. Close down any email, Facebook or other applications so you can be really focused on what I'm sharing with you. Grab yourself some pen and paper, if you've got one to hand, and do stay with me for the 30 minutes. Because what I'm sharing with you can be helpful in all areas of your life. But before I get started, I just want to let you know that there's actually not going to be anything for sale on this webinar. I'm not going to do a big pitch for a program, but if any of you do want to work with me afterwards, then I'll let you know how to, and that is all. Now, I'd also love you to stay with me to the end because I've got some really great content coming for you. And also at the end, I'm going to give you access to one of my best freebies. That's probably the best one I've given away on a webinar so far. And it's my top 10 tips to speak up in meetings. So if that's something that's going to be useful to you, please do stay till the end. I'm so pleased you've chosen to listen to me today. And you may have found out about me from my blogs or perhaps my emails, or you may even have heard me speak. However, if you're not familiar with me, then I'll give you a very short summary of my background. Now, my current grounding comes from working for 17 years in a large corporate business, where despite struggling with my own self-doubts, I still had a great career involving coaching leaders in the business, something I absolutely loved. Having left, I set up my coaching business, and then when I'd recovered from a really rare form of cancer, which, as you can imagine, gave me a very different perspective on life, I realised that I got the most enjoyment from and the greatest results with supporting women to be recognised, fulfilled and rewarded at work. The women I've worked with have achieved some amazing results, including promotions, pay rises and new jobs, along with being respected, valued and engaged at work. And importantly, rather than the years it took me to feel comfortable and fulfilled in my career, they've achieved it in just a few months. I also want to say at this point that it's no surprise that you haven't been able to work all this out for yourself. Most of the women that come to work with me also have that struggle. They've usually read loads of self-development books, followed the latest guru on social media, and had chats with bosses and mentors at work. But still they're feeling like they're just not getting it. But let me tell you, it's not your fault. There's a reason why this is hard and why people get frustrated, but it doesn't have to be like that. It can be simple as long as you know the process to go through and how to make it work for you. So I wonder if any of this sounds familiar. You work really hard and deliver everything you're asked of, but still other people who don't appear to work as hard are getting the recognition. They're the ones that your boss and colleagues listen to, and they get given the new opportunities rather than you. Or perhaps you've been in a situation in a meeting at work where you struggle to get your voice heard. People might speak over you or even steal your ideas. And I'm sure you're very competent at your job, but do you find it difficult to promote your achievements and to get yourself recognised? And perhaps your self-doubts hold you back from taking more responsibility, for applying for promotions, or even asking for a pay rise. And quite often this can knock onto your life outside of work, and it can make you feel distant or snappy or frustrated at home with your husband or partner. Now, it's not right that you should have to continue feeling like this, but here's the good news. That's not the real problem. What I find when I work with clients is that the real problem is that they haven't yet discovered the 6 key steps to double your impact at work. You've probably been focusing instead on what your colleagues are achieving or what you think you should be doing, rather than looking at your own self-worth and being the best version of yourself. When you do that, you'll never feel frustrated at missing out on opportunities, you'll not compare yourself to others, or feel like you're not recognised or valued. So today, I'm going to take you step by step through these 6 strategies so you can double your impact at work and be rewarded, recognised and respected. So let's get started. My first step is about understanding your career and life expectations. Because if you're aiming for the career you think you should have, rather than the one you actually want, then you'll never be happy. When you truly understand what is important about your career, you can put all your energy and effort into achieving it. If you don't have that understanding, then you can get caught up in aiming for being better than the rest or going down a career path that doesn't fulfill you. So doesn't it sound sensible to start with the end in mind? To help with this, I suggest you try some visualization. It might be worth pausing the webinar now if you're listening to the recording. Find a quiet place and give yourself permission to take some time for you. Then imagine it's 5 or 10 years from now. You're in an ideal place in both your life, your home, and your work. Paint a picture in your mind of exactly what is going on. What can you see? Where are you living? Who are you living with? Where are you working? What are you doing? How much are you earning? Who's working with you? Allow yourself to really dream. Then record what you pictured in some way. Some women like to write it down. Others to do a vision board or draw a picture. And some just like to keep the picture in their minds. Once you've got that picture, have a look at the priorities. What was it about the work that you were doing and the picture that you saw that really made you happy? And that should give you some clues to the priorities for your life and work goals. For example, one of my clients wanted to be the very first female director in the company. Another wanted a business that fitted around her children. And yet another realised she was actually comfortable doing her current job. It's just that she wasn't feeling recognised and valued in it. When these clients identified the specific goals, it inspired them to make the necessary changes in their mindset and behaviours. And by following the rest of the 6 steps I'm going to tell you about, they've all been able to step up and stand out in their career and achieve their goals. So, having clarified your expectations, the next step is to have a confident mindset to fulfill them. Now, we all have an inner critical voice, and it tells us stories about ourselves, about others, and about the rest of the world. And you may worry about not feeling good enough, or perhaps doubting your potential, or worry what others think about you. But if you don't change this mindset, then you will continue to struggle with worrying and overthinking, and you will stay stressed and frustrated at work. Life and work can be so much more comfortable and easy when you're able to acknowledge those worries and fears and do it anyway. And I know so many women that have achieved that. It is possible. So we all know that comparing ourselves to colleagues and worrying about whether others are judging us is illogical and harmful. But stopping those thoughts from becoming worry cycles is quite difficult. One tip I have for this, to help you stay present in the current moment and really get out of your head when it's full of all these worry thoughts. For example, you might be sat in a meeting, or perhaps you've met someone for the first time. But rather than actively listening to the conversation, inside your head is whirring round and round with thoughts like, am I being too quiet? Has what I just said really sounded really stupid? Why, when so-and-so speaks, does everybody acknowledge it, even though it sounds completely stupid to me? All these thoughts can be whirring around your head, and that stops you being really engaged in the present moment. And that's you being stuck in what we call a downward spiral of worry, and it can only knock your self-belief and self-worth. Instead, if you can draw your attention to focus on the present, to actively listen to a conversation and really observe others, that storm in your head will die down. It's just like when we used to shake snow globes. Once you shake the snow globe, you'll find that thoughts and the snow are messing around and you can't see the picture within. But as soon as you stop to agitate it and calm down, the snow settles and we can see the picture inside. Now, personally, I find mindfulness practice and exercises are helpful for this. They really train your mind and your brain to be able to pull itself away from a thought and to focus on the present moment instead. Our minds are always going to drift off as new thoughts pop up, and that's natural and you shouldn't worry about it. But mindfulness allows you to be able to choose the thoughts that you engage with. And for me, that's really allowed me to avoid being drawn into those worry spirals. Not that I'm always successful, but it's certainly an improvement. And as a result, I've noticed that my contribution to a conversation is more engaging and I feel much more relaxed. So now that our mind is more relaxed, my third step is about being visible. To get recognition at work, it's important not just to focus on working hard. Competence in a career is obviously essential. You've got to be able to do the job. But so is appearing confident, likable, and visible. For so many people, they put in the long hours and always deliver on time. But then they're seen as reliable and not necessarily having the potential to go further. Now, I'm sure you've all worked with people who aren't the best at the job, but who are able to confidently present themselves and their ideas and to promote themselves well. These are the people that often get the most recognition. And if you want to be more visible, you will need to learn some of those behaviours. And that's something that I work with my clients. And particularly one of those behaviours that I often struggle with is speaking up and being heard. And that can really help in improving your visibility. So if this is something you find difficult, my suggestion is you need to start with very small expectations of yourself and then build on that. So start by thinking about a situation that you find tricky. Now, it could be a team meeting. It could be giving an update to senior people. It could be at a networking event or a project presentation. How would you ideally like to behave? If you could take one step forward towards that behaviour, what would it be? So some practical ideas here to help you are, first of all, put in a lot of preparation before the meeting, particularly if you're the sort of person that likes to reflect before they come up with ideas and thoughts. Having the chance to reflect on the agenda beforehand can be really helpful. If there's no agenda, make sure you ask the person who's invited you to the meeting. Then you might be able to come up with some questions or ideas or suggestions that make you feel confident for going in and put those self-doubts at rest. My second tip is to speak up early in the meeting, in the first sort of 10 minutes. Not only does that mean that you've had your voice heard, but also it takes some of the pressure off you and stops those self-doubts coming up going, come on, when are you going to speak? When are you going to say something? Stop being so quiet. Now, it doesn't have to be a very important or insightful comment. It can just be a clarification, an agreement or a question, just as long as you've got the uncomfortable bit of speaking for the first time over. My third tip is to ask questions. It's definitely the most comfortable way to get into a conversation. Asking for clarity or just checking your understanding. It's also a good way if you want to raise a new point and contribute, or you want to disagree with somebody. Now, for more ideas and helpful tips to speak up in meetings, stay to the end of this webinar and you can then get my top 10 tips. I had a client called Maya who found this particular speaking up in meetings very difficult. She felt that others would speak over her and interrupt her when she was speaking. We worked on lots of practical techniques for this, as well as the underlying issue of her self-worth and how she perceived her value relative to others. And this had a dramatic effect on her visibility of work, as she said in her testimonial for me. Hi Joe, I just want to say thank you for your support in improving my confidence at work, with situations where I let my self-doubts get the better of me. In the short time working with you, I've learned how to speak out in group meetings, get my point across so I'm heard, and how to react to different personality types. I've noticed real results with the techniques you gave me, and the feedback from my boss and clients has been really positive. What more can you ask for? So let's think where we've got to. So far, we've looked at having clarity on your career and life expectations. And one technique to do that is to use visualization, but there are lots more. The importance of your mindset and not engaging with those negative thoughts when they pop up. And lastly, the importance of being visible at work. So let's go to step number 4. This is all about effective communication. And effective communication covers a lot of different skills, such as assertiveness, influencing and persuading, negotiating, networking, and small talk. Now, you've probably read books or been on courses on how best to use various communication styles. But how would you rate your skills now? What I'd like you to do is have a think about each of those skills and some example situations where you've used them. Again, this is a good time to pause the webinar if you're listening to the recording. And then on a scale of 0 to 10, I'd like you to rate yourself on your communication skills, where 0 was I didn't use that technique at all, and 10 is my skills were extremely effective. Where would you say you sit on that scale? It's a huge grey area in between. It's not black and white. So think about where on that grey area you currently are in that skill and where you'd like to get to. Oops, we've moved on too fast there, sorry. So another part of communication that a lot of my clients struggle with is assertiveness. And in particular in situations with senior or with people they find intimidating. The mistake many people make is to assume if you become assertive, you will come across as aggressive and even arrogant. The truth is that there is again a long scale and a big grey area between being completely passive, which knocks your self-esteem, and being aggressive, which will cause conflict in a situation. So taking a small step towards assertiveness still leaves you miles away from aggression. I had a client called Amanda who struggled with these particular issues and found it really hard to speak up assertively to anyone at director level or above. If she had an idea to put or she had a thought that possibly disagreed with them, or even wanted just to interrupt a conversation, she'd avoid the situation and instead just sit back passively. We worked on her understanding of what assertiveness was and changed the style of language that she used in specific situations to be less apologetic and less soft. Amanda now has the respect of the directors in her company and feels really valued and has recently been rewarded for her contribution. So, step number 5 even. Step number 5 is more proactive, and this is about something called personal branding. Personal branding is all about marketing yourself in an authentic and a consistent way that really matches with your values and those of your business. We'd all like to believe that people don't judge a book by its cover, and instead they're more interested in the content. However, as you probably know, that isn't always true. And to stand out in your career, you do need to create an authentic and positive first impression. A client is unlikely to spend money in the company if they haven't developed a trust and rapport with you. And the same applies to your bosses. So how do you develop a personal brand that matches your values and encourages trust and likability? Well, you need to explore several aspects of your brand. Think about what impression you want to make, both physically and mentally, and how do you rate compared to that impression? Consider what are your values, what are the important things that you want people to know about you. How do you behave when you're at your most honest and authentic? When you're in that real feeling of flow, what is your behavior like? What are the strengths that you'd like to portray to your clients, colleagues, bosses? And how does all this fit in with your company's values? Is the company's culture the right culture for you? Does it fit with what you really believe? I worked with one of my clients, Jane, specifically on these questions and a lot more. And she told me, I would never have thought about my personal brand, but now I have it, I feel so relaxed in myself and letting people see the best version of me. The final step, number 6, is about becoming more aware of how you interact upwards and sideways, and how you can manage these people in terms of your interactions with them. Because having a greater understanding of the personality and drivers that your boss, clients and colleagues have is extremely important if you want to manage upwards and sideways. Because you may be delivering great work, but is your boss really aware of it? Is it what they actually want from you? And are you sharing your results? Do you keep others updated? Are you approachable and respected? Without all of these attributes, your boss and colleagues are less likely to collaborate with you and to see your potential. So instead, if you understand what really drives them, what their focus in the business is, how they like to be informed or updated, what areas of interest they particularly have, etc., etc., then you can adapt your behaviours for each individual and to get the best results for not just the business, but also for you. Karen was a client of mine who got on okay with her boss, but didn't really understand why her boss didn't recognise all the work she put into her reports. And it left her feeling quite undervalued, and that was reinforced when she got a pretty standard bonus. So once Karen and I had worked together and she had a better understanding of her boss's personality and the drivers that her boss had, she could match her delivery to their less detailed needs and got a greater buy-in. She'd assumed that they needed all the detail to show all the hard work she'd put into it, when actually her boss really wanted was just the top line strategic level information. And as a result of delivering so high on what the boss needed, she's expecting a much higher bonus this year. Fantastic. So today, I promised we'd cover a step-by-step strategy to help you double your impact at work and in your career. And I really hope that you found that useful. And what you should now be aware of that you need to do to succeed is to first of all get clarity on your ideal career and life expectations. Once you've got that, to develop a confident mindset, to become more visible at work, and to use effective communication. Then to develop a personal brand and to think about being able to manage upwards and sideways. I hope some of this has really resonated with you. And now you have a choice. You can either continue to struggle along, focusing on these areas and getting limited results over a long period of time, or you can choose to step up and connect with someone who's been there, has done it, and now is an expert in the process. So if you think this is something that you'd like to master, then let me tell you how I can help. As I said at the start, I'm not going to try and sell you anything today. However, I have set aside some time in my calendar, and that's my personal calendar, over the next week to speak to you personally about how you can apply these ideas to your career starting today. And this call is not only completely free, but it's confidential. So why am I doing this? Well, on the call, I want to help you get total clarity about exactly what you want to achieve in your career and the exact steps you're going to take to get there. If you decide you want my help and I feel it's a good fit, I may invite you to become one of the new clients I take on this month. If we do work together, I'll put you through exactly the same program that I put my amazingly successful VIP clients through previously. And I'll be expecting you to see, the curriculum is designed to get you to the next step of career success that you dream of. I'll be expecting you to see changes in your mindset and behaviours within the first few weeks. I'm building on that throughout the programme. And that'll take you from feeling frustrated and not at your full potential to being really recognised, respected and rewarded at work. So if you'd like to apply for one of these places, because they are limited, click on the big button below and that will enable you to book in a strategy call with me right now. So click on that button below to see my availability. Or you can go to this URL, www.confidencecoachingforwomen.co.uk/double your impact. Thank you so much for listening to me today. And remember to apply now for a call with me by clicking that big button below. Also, when you click on that button, you will be sent my top 10 tips for speaking up in meetings. And you can see another button there if you'd just like to receive the freebie anyway. This is Jo Painter, Confidence Coaching for Women, and I can't wait to talk to you soon. Don't forget to press that big button, and thanks for listening. Bye.